Today is Sunday, tomorrow is Monday. That means stocks start trading, and specifically with Tesla, things look great. But you do have Hamas invading Israel, and a lot of its neighboring countries are also not exactly on Israel's side. So I point this out because a lot of people are in the comment section on, Discord chats, things of that nature, talking about this crash that could come to our markets because of this. And that's true. There is a possibility of that, but there is also the possibility that this does very little. So I want to get into the two potential outcomes here, what you really need to be watching and what could happen to stocks. Now, on top of that, I want to look at some of Tesla's technicals. I do want to go over some of the option activity, how some individuals are positioned in Tesla for this week, and give you guys just my overall opinion. We do have some economic data coming out tomorrow and throughout the rest of this week as well that will also be important to incorporate here with this Israel conflict. So we got a lot to get into. Potential Black Swan event or nothing burger. Let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think, and let's go ahead and get started. So according to oil experts, they are predicting a quote knee-jerk surge in oil due to the impact of this Israel-Hamas conflict. Now, Israel and Palestinian origin, is not really a major producer of oil. They don't really produce any significant quantities of oil. The problem is the neighboring countries do. So if it were to spread and this conflict were to get bigger, that's where you could have a broader problem for oil. Now it says, quote, there will be some risk premium factored in as a default until the market is satisfied that the event is not setting off a chain reaction and Mideast oil and gas supplies won't be affected. So that's important to point out. The risk premium, kind of like if a stock gets really good news. Imagine if Tesla announces the Cybertruck tomorrow during the trading day. Those options are going to shoot through the roof quickly. And then if the rally doesn't continue, the options are going to come right back down. That's the way that you guys should be thinking about this. That initial surge, that's factoring in some risk that this situation could get worse. Speculators, you could say, stepping in as well. Some people with just a lot of, oil, trying to hedge out their positions. A lot of people forget that futures that actually dictate the price of oil, those are actual instruments that people use. Like if you're a farmer, you use futures to buy and sell your wheat, your corn, if you are a big time farmer, right? Same thing for oil. So just the risk premium here is going to go higher. Based on a futures level, that's going to drive oil up. Now, does this ultimately mean that oil is going to just continue higher? Is this going to be a negative factor on our markets? I would say in its current form, probably not. Now, what we seen on Friday, the markets ripped faces off to the upside. It was a questionable rally, let's just call it that. The Nasdaq was up almost 2%, whereas the same thing that has been pushing stocks lower happened on Friday as well. The 30-year Treasury was up 7 basis points, almost 7.5 basis points. That's a big move for Treasuries. That's a very big move. You broke out to a new high of this cycle on Friday. Stocks did not care. Same thing for the 20-year bond. That hit a high of 5.16%, up 9 basis points on Friday, a new high of this cycle. Just look at this yield, even since the second half of 2023 so far. It's went from 4% to 5.16%. You're up 1.16%, and the Fed has only raised rates once. So, this didn't even affect the markets negatively. The 10-year Treasury, that was up 8 basis points. Same thing, hitting a new high of this cycle on Friday at 4.79%. So I don't think a spike in oil necessarily is going to be this huge negative event. If the markets were able to rally so aggressively like we seen on Friday, with your Treasury yields going up across the curve, I just don't think oil is more important than Treasuries. Oil ultimately affects inflation, but oil doesn't really affect much. It doesn't affect the broader economy as much as Treasuries going up on the 10, 20, and the 30 year. So that brings up an interesting question. Did the markets just go through an oversold bounce on Friday? Is that why stocks went higher even though bond yields soared as well? Probably. If that's what I were to, throw out there, that's probably what I would go with. But it's possible you have a change in sentiment now. Maybe it looks more like we're going to get a soft landing. Even if that means higher interest rates, that doesn't matter as long as we avoid a recession. That's fine if the economy's doing well. So I think the real question is, do you think Friday was an oversold bounce or not? Now, if we were to react negatively on Friday and the markets did not soar, then this attack on Israel, the surge in oil, would have been another block, if you will, on this falling house, which is the markets. But if you continue to be bullish in the markets, if this was not just an oversold bounce, kind of a fake out by the market makers, then I don't see this having a big effect. But here's where this could turn into a black swan event. Hamas says the attacks on Israel were backed by Iran. Now, at this point, it looks very unlikely Israel would do anything to Iran. Iran is not exactly like the strongest military power in the world, like the U.S. I mean, we're the best out there. I got the U.S. hat on, so don't expect me to say anything less. But, I mean, compared to Israel is not going to attack Iran. But if other individuals wanted to take advantage of this, well, that would not be great. I don't think we really need to elaborate on that. You're talking like, WW3. Okay, that would not be great. That would be a black swan for the markets, and you would not want to be in stocks. Does that escalate to that? I don't know. It's strange why Hamas is doing this now when they know Israel's going to win. Like, you're not going to beat Israel if you're Hamas, okay? That's just honest. You need help from someone else. You need direct intervention from another country to really get somewhere if you're Hamas. So I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know these guys. I can't communicate with them. I don't speak their language, even if I could. It's weird, okay? It is a little bit weird. When you even have Elon Musk following this situation, that's kind of weird too. And this was shared. It says, breaking. The Israel defense minister orders preparations to evacuate towns near the Lebanese border. And Elon replied and says, must mean probable attacks from Lebanon. So if this does kind of escalate from here, and I think we'll know more information by tomorrow morning, then that's where this turns into a black swan event. Because let's be honest, in the grand scope of things, even though you were green on Friday, it's not like the markets are in a great spot. One good day does not make a new trend. It looks good. I mean, it feels good for a lot of people that are bulls out there. But the markets are still very, very weak. Just to show you how weak markets are right now, take a look at this. So it says the S&P 500 is trading at a 10% premium to its 25-year average. It is skewed by the mega caps. When looking at the equal-weighted S&P 500, we are currently trading at a 10% discount from your 25-year average. So equal weight is at about 14.9 for the PE, and the S&P is at 18.3. The 5-year average is 17.1x, 17.1 17.1 for a PE ratio, and 18.9 for a PE ratio on the S&P. So kind of in line with the 5-year average. The 10-year average, I mean, still 17.7 times, so you're pretty close to that. Equal weight at 17 times, you're far off of that. And the 25-year average, looks even worse at 16.2, and the 25-year average for the S&P at 16.5. So you have a big divergence there where a lot of stocks have not done well. If you get an environment where real fear starts to actually creep in, then people will sell big tech, and that could be the last domino to fall. I can't really think of any other sector besides maybe select healthcare that has done well. I've owned AbbVie for like years now, and that's literally one of my best performing stocks. It's a healthcare stock. They sell Humira. They sell Botox. Up like 70% on it. Just as an example. And basically everything else has not done well. Tesla, obviously, I've done well on that. But excluding Tesla and AbbVie, I mean, a lot of your market is not doing well. So if your big tech names start to give it up, if real fear does creep in, you could see a rapid decline in the markets if this conflict does spread. And in terms of energy, that's exactly what some of the experts are saying as well. Quote, the impact on the oil price will be limited unless we see the war between the two sides expand quickly to a regional war. That would obviously, like I said, become a black swan event for the markets. But I don't know if that's ultimately going to happen. Let's hope it does not happen. But, I mean, you do have Elon Musk watching this situation. So if he thinks it's worth his time to be watching, he literally says, please add interesting options in replies below of people that are on the ground that are following this conflict. So, I mean, in its current state, I wouldn't be too concerned right now as far as your portfolio, as far as the markets. The surge in energy is probably not a big deal, if I were to imagine. Again, if it spreads, that's an even bigger deal. But if it spreads, then you're talking about a possible U.S. intervention, then that becomes a bigger issue. But right now, I think I've seen like 50 comments on YouTube videos, on different chats out there saying that Tesla's gonna crash and stocks are gonna crash because of this. I just want to warn a little bit. On Friday, bond yields soared and stocks soared as well. Oil soaring is probably not going to cause stocks to fall if you've seen that kind of strength like you've seen on Friday. But again, I think a bigger question is, was that just an oversold bounce, or is this really the bottom, the change of trend? Now, as far as the economic calendar, you don't really have too much on Monday. You do have the IMF World Bank annual meetings. Those can be interesting sometimes. We'll just have to wait and see. Shouldn't be anything too crazy. You have Fed Logan, Fed Barr, and Fed Jefferson that speak in between about 9 a.m. tomorrow and 1:30 p.m. So a couple Fed speakers, but that's really going to be it for tomorrow. On Tuesday, you have wholesale inventories, consumer inflation expectations, Fed Waller, Fed Kashkari, Fed Daily that speak. And then on Wednesday, you're going to get PPI month over month. Fed Bostic and the FOMC minutes. On Thursday, you're going to get your CPI report. And then on Friday, you're going to get Michigan consumer sentiment. Now, we went over all of the expectations in the last video, so we're not going to spend 10 minutes going through that here in this video. Basically, we're expecting inflation to fall. CPI, PPI, across the board, you're expecting inflation to fall again from the spike that we seen last month, mostly in regards to energy rising, right? Energy has recently pulled back quite a bit. You've seen the worst day for energy throughout all of 2023. I think it was down like 6%. What was that on last Friday, I believe? Last Thursday, last Friday. Doesn't even matter. You've seen energy come down, but that will definitely be something to be watching now that this conflict is starting. One of the big stories, though, at least for the beginning of this week, will be just Fed speakers. Do they continue to hold the stance that the 30, 20, 10-year bonds rising the way they have, the yields, I shall say, enough to not get any more rate hikes. That's basically what the Fed started to say is, well, the markets have tightened for us. We don't even have to raise rates at this point. Or do they start to take more of a sinister approach and say, maybe there's too much restriction on the economy? You want to watch for that change of kind of narrative, because you started to see that last week between, at the beginning of the week, Fed speakers, were saying we might not get rate cuts at all in 2024. We might have to raise rates again. Fast forward to last Friday, and Fed speakers were saying, yeah, we probably don't need to raise anymore. The yields have done the tightening for us. So you've started to see a little bit of a flip-flop. Watch to see if that does continue on Monday, with especially Fed Jefferson. I believe he is a voting member. I believe Fed Logan is a voting member. I don't believe Fed Barr is a voting member. I'll have to double check that. Now, if markets do react negatively to this conflict, and this really did turn into a black swan event, then all bets are obviously off the table when it comes to Tesla, when it comes to the markets. You could easily fall under $200 per share. I think that would really have to be some form of U.S. intervention if like an Iran or Lebanon got into the conflict, right? And then you're talking about WW3, and that's obviously what nobody wants to see. That's your black swan event. You're not going to get a crazy big drop off of this without something along those lines. So I wouldn't be willing to make that bet. I don't think that is likely at all. I think nobody wants problems with the U.S. We'll just call it that. They don't want the smoke. But it's a possibility. It is. You should know that. Now, realistically speaking, I think Tesla stock goes higher from here. I don't think this changes anything in terms of specifically Tesla. Tesla is in the 1% to 2% of stock camp that is above its 50-day moving average by 4 or 5%. Tesla is one of the most bullish stocks out there in the markets right now. And just based on the technicals, you're ready to pop through this 265 line, this longer term downtrending line, and make your way into the mid threes. Now, obviously, earnings are upcoming. We got the delivery numbers. That wasn't, a negative. Tesla stock was actually green that day. We got price cuts in the Model 3, the Model Y. Tesla stock was green on Friday. We're just waiting for the Cybertruck announcement, the delivery event announcement. And that could be coming, as I reported in the last video, literally any time. It could happen by tomorrow morning. And Tesla stock would probably rally 5 to 10%, I would imagine, when that's actually announced. So I think Tesla's going higher. I don't think this is going to have too much of any effect, generally speaking, again, unless this were to spread into an even bigger conflict. And I do think Tesla stock's going to make its way into the likely low to mid threes by the end of this year, as long as the markets don't collapse. And obviously, you want to be watching the data. If CPI comes in hot, then all bets are off the table. Stocks could come down big time. But as long as nothing crazy happens that is too outside the realms of expectations, then Tesla stock is going higher. And I want to be bullish positioned in Tesla. That's exactly what we are going to do on Monday. That's exactly what we did last week as well. So if you guys want to come trade with us live in real time, link down below in the description of this video. Now, let's briefly look at some of the option activity for Tesla as well, see how some people are positioning for this week. I believe we went over this in one of the last videos over this weekend, but why not just go through it here in this video as well. The 270 call is seeing a lot of activity, about 47,000 for volume on Friday. The 260 call seeing 55,000 for volume on Friday. The 265 had about 52,000 for volume. And the 280 call expiring this upcoming Friday. That's quite a bit out the money. About $20 or so, like 10-15%. That seen volume of about 20,000. So a lot of activity here on the call side. The puts are just a fraction of what the calls are. If you look at the 110 put, like I said in one of the last videos, we did actually go over this because I remember talking about this. The 110 put did see like 29,000 for volume on Friday, and it looks like they actually held that position into this week. So someone was obviously expecting Tesla to come down big time this week. So that's a little bit weird, but we'll see what happens. It looks like the calls are definitely winning out here. Really no comparison. If you look at the put to call ratio, it's still at 0.86, even though Tesla is trending to the upside. Some of the lowest points it has been at basically ever. So there's not a lot of downside positions in Tesla. And you can see over the past week, 4,958 orders totaling $5.19 billion with a positive order value of 63%. $5.2 billion worth of option activity. Inflows to Tesla options with a positive order value of 63% over the past week. That is not bearish by any means. That is very, very bullish. So be a little bit careful when you hear people talking negatively about Tesla. Tesla's going to crash. Tesla just seen price cuts in the Model 3 and the Model Y, and it didn't crash. You really have to see something bad happen here for Tesla to take a big down move from right now, from here. So that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. Now, most important thing, let me know what you guys think about this conflict. Do you think this could escalate into a multi-nation conflict, aka WW3? Do you think this is going to be just over with, a week or two, markets are going to get past it, might see a spike in oil, but oil just comes down? Or do you think it's just going to be a local conflict, like maybe in Israel, maybe other oil producing countries that could have a bigger impact on energy? Maybe you guys know something I don't. Let me know down below in the comment section. Source that information. But that is going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching. My name is Michael Tyler, and I will see you in the next one.